welcome to Doctrine and Devotion. It's a podcast that explores Christian faith and practice from a Reformed Baptist perspective. My name is Joe Thorne. I'm the lead pastor of Redeemer Fellowship in St. Charles, Illinois. And today, you might be wondering who they have it on. Like, what scholar, what pastor theologian is Joe going to have on the Thursday episode? Because if Jimmy's going to miss one, usually it's the Thursday episode. So here's what we're going to do. You ready? Boom. Fofo in the house.
Hi. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Well, Joe, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for having me on your Thursday episode. I typically don't get invited to these anymore, but I'm glad that this week I'm able to make it.
Yeah.
Who declined to meet? Who was
Nobody.
it that passed up the opportunity to be on Thursday, and hence why sometimes, listen, don't call it a comeback. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Don't call it a comeback.
Okay.
But it kind of feels like a comeback.
Well, I'm just saying, like, if we can always do Wednesday at this time because this is after work, right? So, like, this is I try to sneak in an interview at different times, and you can't do it when those are going on. That's why you're not usually on those. And we run out of steam.
JLB.
And we run out of steam when it's like when we're recording on a Saturday morning. We get like 2 done, and we're like, okay.
I mean, one of us is older than the other and runs out of steam. It's fine.
Yeah. Listen, I'm basically coasting at this point. I have no power. I've got nothing going on, man. So you look like a coach for like Tennessee footballers. What are you? You're wearing like an orange Izod. What is that? Why?
Don't worry about it.
Why orange?
It's comfy.
Okay, but it's orange.
I like the color. I don't know if it's actually orange.
Well, it's orange,
orange
in the video. Off orange counts.
Yeah. It's not salmon, but it's tangerine.
No, salmon's got like some pink in it or something.
It's citrus. It's citrus.
Okay. All right. All righty then. Well, you have a good day?
A long day. Good day.
How's it a long day
This is what makes it better. I start pretty early.
Oh, really?
I got stuff in Europe that I got to take care of before I even get to the office here.
Why don't they adjust to your time?
Oh, I've tried. It has not seemed to work for them to change up their schedules and start a lot earlier. But they seem to quite understand my schedule because they definitely all of a sudden get wham-bammed starting around 6 a.m. when they know that I'm on.
Okay, yeah, good. Right before they leave, right?
No, they leave around. It's only like 6 hours, right? Depending on where they're at for the difference. So that's about
6 hours.
I get a hold of them, till about 11 o'clock, 12 is when I know, okay, people are starting to head out.
They're not there anymore. All right. Well, listen, we were planning on talking about something. We are going to talk about that thing, but we got an email from a guy named RJ, and he is a listener of the pod. He has been to the conferences. He loves us. He had a lot of nice things to say, but he took issue with how we handled FBC Jacksonville's church member agreement. Whatever. And so if you want to go back and listen to that was Monday's episode. And essentially what we focused on was that to continue to be a member at First Baptist Church Jacksonville, you will now have to sign a statement on a biblical understanding of sexual ethics, essentially. And so we talked about that. We would agree with what the statement says. We were uncomfortable with the idea that the members are having to sign something in addition to the covenant now. That was what was weird for us. We were like, well, I would just change the covenant, and maybe that's what they're doing. I didn't understand exactly all that was going on there. But he wrote us an email, and we're not going to read all of it because it's a little long, even though it was helpful. Jimmy, you want to read part of this? Or do you want me to read it?
Sure. No, I'll read it. That's why I was getting it bigger. To be clear, this is a legal move, which you should look into as a legit decision for churches in the future that seeks to protect our church from LGBTQ lawsuits and attacks using our bathrooms, etc. Nothing more. But we have been slandered and maligned. As shepherds, they have sought to protect the body with this amendment. We hate abortion, but no one is being sued by abortion clinics. But so many are under fire from the LGBTQ groups. Therefore, our people voted to adopt this as part of the membership commitment at our church, protect our body, and make clear where our entire church stands. FBC Jax, whether you know it or not, is a massive revitalization that Pastor Heath and our team have undertaken, and it's going well. They may never be fully 1689 in confession reform, but they are faithful SBC brothers and sisters with no, quote, suspicious activity here.
Yeah, so obviously one of the things he's responding to.
Sorry, what was the quote? What was the quote for suspicious?
Yeah, he's responding to.
Because like go ahead.
I was just going to say he's responding to the attacks, the verbal attacks about, oh, you simply hate LGBTQ people. Apparently, they've been inundated with a lot of bad press because they're showing that their church fundamentally agrees on these biblical issues of sexual ethics, but people have been using that as an opportunity to attack them and say things about them that aren't necessarily true or aren't true at all. I haven't read all of those attacks, so I'm not really sure, but I imagine that's what he's referring to. And again, we didn't say anything.
We didn't say anything like that there was something suspicious or it looks suspicious or it looks okay.
Yeah, not us. So no, okay. I think, to understand where he's coming from, RJ, that's his church. They're working hard and they're trying to do the right thing. Yeah. They're trying to protect the church. And then we come along and we're like, nah, wouldn't do it that way. And it probably felt like piling on. So let's be clear. RJ, man, thank you for being such a supporter and a consistent listener. You've been to the conferences. We love that. And we love to hear about good works of revitalization, man. That is awesome. We weren't piling on, at least that wasn't our intent, right? But we didn't do a deep dive into it either. And I guess one of the things we should have said was, in defense of the church, they are trying to protect the church. They are doing what they're doing to make sure that the church isn't subject to frivolous and unfounded lawsuits. And so this is one of the ways that they're attempting to do that. Now, we've actually, have the same concerns that some people might try to come at the church through legal means. And so what we've done to protect Redeemer is we adjusted our Constitution, right, and our policies. So our Constitution and policies are in place to protect us, and we think that's a good way to do that, right, Jimmy?
No, I agree, and I think this is where I know you and I kind of had a little bit of back and forth, where if you're changing something with the Constitution or changing something with you are reaffirming, I guess I would say, right, some of the things that we're saying as members, I do think we want to make sure, and I think this is where he's coming from, is there may have been, and we don't know the situation, maybe there were members that did not affirm this, right? Maybe there are members that do not affirm this. And so, there's, they're trying to say, hey, if you're a member and you're to be a member of this church, we are going to say we're changing. And this is, we're stating more clearly. I think that's a better way to put it. We're stating more clearly our beliefs and practices. And now we want to make sure everyone that says they are a member understands this is very clearly where we stand.
Right. And from what I remember when we talked about this on Monday, they had actually, what they're signing off on is something that the church voted on and passed. So it's already been, affirmed as a local church. And so again, we'll have to go and see exactly how this is, playing out I probably won't because it's not my church, but it would be interesting to go in and to look at, their covenant, their bylaws and all of that stuff to see how this is ultimately, sort of ratified. I'm because he mentioned specifically, them wanting to use the bathrooms. And again, I imagine this is a big church too. So there might be an extra draw to that church for people that are looking to cause trouble. But it'll be interesting to see, I don't know how that statement will actually change any of the bathroom issues. You'll have to have a policy in place that says who is or isn't allowed to use bathrooms. If you don't want a transgender woman to use the little girl's bathroom, then you'd have to say, well, biological men, biological women, I don't know. I just don't know how they're ultimately dealing with it. That's not, I don't have that information.
No, but I think what's definitely clear here, and he even says to be clear, this is a legal move, which you should look into as a legit decision for churches of the future that seek to protect our church, right? So even as you're talking about, the reality is churches are going to need to start thinking through these things, right? As things are increasing and as these issues are even becoming more prevalent. They're becoming more acceptable. There's mainline, and there's churches that are affirming of this. It's becoming more and more where, they're looking to say maybe there were people within their congregation that were affirming this and saying, no, to be a member, this is where we are. Not just like, here we are as a church, we're affirming it, but now almost like to be honest, the more and more I think of it, the more and more I understand it, right? Of wanting to make sure that at the member level, the voting level, people that are voting for the officers of the church, the budget of the church, that have that sense of responsibility and ownership of the church, they are aligned.
Right. And, they specifically said, because, in my back and forth with our brother through email, I believe, we talked about it's really about the idea of lawsuits, right? Like that's like one of the major concerns here. And so yes, absolutely, we're going to have to be aware of what's going on. We've made some adjustments in light of some of that. But yeah, we've had, we have people that are, sharing the gospel with their friends and their neighbors, and, some of them are transgendered people. And so then the question is like, okay, if they come, what bathroom are they going to use? And is that going to be an issue? It's a whole, like, for example, I know that, what can I share? I know that, like, I'll take it out of any examples. Somebody that transitioned 25 years ago and has been living as a different sex all this time, in the minds of some people, they're like, okay, well, that's not a concern anymore because they're not trying to be predatory. We want to try and minister the gospel with them. They're not going to make an issue. Other people are going to say, hey, I don't know them, and this is still crossing lines. And if we allow one person to do it who's been transitioned for 25 years, we would have to allow somebody to do it that's been only transitioned for 5 months, right? Or who's in the process of transitioning. So I get that you got to have these policies, and we definitely do need to think them through, for not only for lawsuits, but just for protecting, people. People in the church, or young people that, and again, this is I'm not suggesting, Jimmy wouldn't suggest that every person who is transitioning is a predator, like that. We don't believe that. There are straight predators, there are gay predators, and there are those that transition for predatory purposes. But we're just looking at, like, how do we keep everybody safe? So I think it's a legit conversation, and I think it is legit for people to be working through these things. And you know what? I'm with you, Jimmy, at this point. They are working hard to take care of the church, addressing something that a lot of other churches maybe aren't addressing. So good on them for that, right?
Good on them for that. And I mean, honestly, it is, like you mentioned, a larger church, which maybe, they're going to potentially attract more attention, right? But the one thing I was actually thinking was, now, this is me from, like, I guess, just a different standpoint of, for us as a smaller church, even if we have members that don't completely align, we're still able to kind of work with people at that level. Now imagine a church of 10,000.
Yeah.
With exponentially more, right? And let's just say by that ratio, more people that are maybe not on the same page and able then to sort of feed off each other, like, encourage one another, sort of cause a bit more, kind of
Sure.
understand it,
Yeah, no, I definitely see the tension there, and smaller churches, we all have our own risks, right? And we have different different problems. So I know large churches are like, I'm glad I'm not dealing with those problems, and they're probably glad they're dealing with their problems. I don't want to deal with their problems. I'm happy to deal with my problems, right? God has us all where we're at.
Yeah.
But I think it's easy to, for smaller churches, it definitely is easy for us to become suspicious of large churches, to dismiss any church of any, like, big size. Like, well, obviously they're selling out, otherwise they wouldn't be that big. Like, I hear this, and I've felt this before. That book, Outgrowing the Ingrown Church, by this guy, Calvin Miller, I think his name is. He talks about this, like with a small church that isn't growing, oftentimes will look around and see other churches growing, and then in suspicion, and be like, oh, well, that's what happened. Wide is the gate. That's what they're doing. They're just, we're small because narrow is the gate. Like, we're being faithful. We're preaching the hard truth. And so people are going to reject it.
Sorry. Yeah. I wasn't saying I was suspicious. If I said that, that's not what I meant.
No, I'm just talking about people.
Okay, good. All right.
You're so defensive, bro. Oh my gosh.
Well, no, I'm like, man, we're over the internet. Maybe it's lost in translation.
Yeah. Maybe it's the orange is throwing you off. I think the orange is throwing you off.
Maybe it's throwing you off.
Hey,
it's throwing you off.
Do you have a goatee in that picture behind your head, or is that a beard?
Oh,
other way. Is that a
no, I'm covering.
Is that a goatee picture, or is that a beard picture?
No, it's not.
It's a beard picture.
A beard.
Okay, all right.
It's a beard picture.
Darn it, too bad. All right.
That was in southern France.
Oh wow! It looks like it was taken at Wheeler Park in Geneva. So great job.
It was. I was lying.
So, and honestly, I was just bringing up like I was saying like, hey, we do try to be generous toward other Christians and churches, and we don't always do that. And so we might have come across as, or we might not have been as generous as we should have been in talking about, this move by FBC. And I was just pointing out, like, it is easy for smaller churches to look at what a big church is doing and then be suspicious. That's how I got to that, in case you were wondering. How I
gotcha.
Got all right. Hey, listen.
I was wondering. I definitely was wondering. Yeah. I thought you were blaming me.
No. So RJ, listen, man, thanks for the pushback. It was clear. It was respectful, and we receive it well. Thank you, boo-boo. All right. So we got another email.
This one's you. You can read
you want
this.
me? Oh, great. Okay. Well, I don't have my glasses.
It's the long one. This one's yours. Never mind. I didn't know you weren't ready.
I can blow it up. I can make the text bigger. All right. So, I'm going to make it bigger. Hang on. And bang. There we go. Hey, guys. I'm a longtime listener, first time writing in. I've gleaned much wisdom and insight from your podcast over the years, and I would love to sit down one day with you both, talk ministry and theology, and, of course, enjoy some cigars while we're at it. Right on. I like that. I'm writing to you seeking godly counsel as I find myself in a position I never could have imagined. I am a young pastor in only my second year of vocational ministry, on staff at a non-elder-led church. I'll skip all that. While we do not have elders, we do have a team of staff pastors that somewhat function like elders, but the church is not elder-led. With that, there is also less than clear communication regarding the hierarchy of authority amongst pastoral staff. Yeah, but that's confusing. That makes sense. I can imagine. All right, so he said, we recently had an incident that involved a pastor being placed on leave, only for him to be welcomed back to the pulpit after less than a year. I did not believe that he was ready to be restored to pastoral leadership, but the team of pastors that made that decision disagreed. I now find myself stuck between a rock and a hard place, wanting to submit to my fellow pastors and lead the congregation well, while also clearly disagreeing on the return of this other pastor. Relationships have been strained, and my wife and I feel like we're at the end of our rope. We don't want to give up on the congregation that we love, but we don't see how we can continue to be a part of this church. Staff, how would y'all proceed in a situation like this? Do either of you have any advice on how I could move forward in a biblical way that honors my family as my first ministry and that honors the bride of Christ? All righty. Well, this will be super easy since, it's filled with details and we have the full picture. So, Jimmy, wrap it up.
Well, that's just it. You and I do have a full picture because there's a whole section where we're asked not to read it.
Yes.
So and that's the problem here.
Yeah, we can't go into like the details of all that's being said, but we can talk about this in principle, right?
Yeah,
we can talk about all right. So if a pastor has to be put on leave, right? Is that how it's said? Yeah, placed on leave, which is a weird way to describe it, because is someone on leave or are they under discipline? Listen,
yeah.
I would love for the church to put me on leave for the sake of chill. That would be fun. Like I would put me on leave for chill. But I think normally, when you hear like, oh, this officer has been put on leave or whatever, it usually means that there's something going on, but usually on leave with pay, it's that kind of a situation. So without,
for sure. And I mean, I think like, okay, so there are different things. So you're looking at it the negative, like on the positive, like we've shared this, right? Like there's been circumstances, I think, in your life, right? In your time where the elders have said, hey, Joe, take some time off.
Yeah.
That's a leave,
yeah,
right? Like that's a, hey, go refresh, relax, do what you got to do. You're going through a season, right? Like that's the positive. So when you hear that, it's like there is a positive aspect of, hey, we're kind of placing someone on leave, right? The issue, though, is there is that sense of administrative leave, which is, we've never put you on that, but there is that sense of like administrative leave where, hey, something's going on. We're kind of checking it out. We'll get back to you with more. But it looks like in here, I don't know, we can't, there's a bit of a lack of transparency and communication on what's happening, right?
Yep.
Like I know after I left, okay, so I became a believer and then loved that church, was really encouraged by that church. I had the opportunity to be part of another church in Elgin, right, as far as in a youth capacity. And the senior pastor at the time, that was also the founding pastor,
had an affair. Of the one in Elgin?
Yeah, don't try to think through who it was.
No, I'm just trying to follow, like which church, okay.
Oh, not the one, not the
one where you got saved.
St. Charles.
Yeah, you got saved in St. Charles. We're looking at a church in Elgin. Got it.
Correct. And like, I mean, the guy was the founding pastor, lead pastor, and I would probably say the bankrolling pastor, right? It was still kind of a small sort of fledgling. He was bivocational. It was so it was like there was a sense of ownership. I don't know how else to word it than that. So, I mean, he was on leave for some time and then was brought back, right? And a number of people left, and I was kind of one of those people. Now, that's not saying this is the same situation here, but at that point, like it was feeling like, well, hold on, there was no sense of like real accountability. It almost felt like, hey, just be out of sight, out of mind for a little bit, and then everyone's going to welcome you back. Just like go do your time, lay low, and then you can kind of be back,
Right.
But there, without that communication, like as far as what a true leave or true kind of like taking a break, it's kind of hard. So even like you would say Chandler in a lot of ways was on leave.
Yeah.
But there was still that sense of, hey, they're investigating this, they're going through something. I mean, I felt like it was, if I remember correctly, I don't want to put words, but wasn't it a former church discipline, right?
It sounded like it.
Was it formal?
It sounded like it, yeah. Yeah, I don't know if they used that term, but it certainly did sound like that. It was, repentance was being called for. He had to submit to the elders. So whether you call it that or not, it did look like that he had come under discipline for inappropriate, non-sexual, non-romantic texting with a woman in the congregation. And so I don't know, it sounds like that more information was shared there than in this case. But even then, like we talked about it, like if I was a member at that church, I still would want to know more because I don't understand. Yeah. I'm still nonplussed about the whole thing. Like what was said? I don't have to have all the details, but I would want some. And that's my problem here is I get the impression that nobody knows why this guy was on leave. I mean, out in the congregation is what it sounds like. That's the impression that I get. And that would be a big concern for me. Obviously, depending on why a person is put on leave. And I don't like that phrase as we're talking about dealing with a pastor, because according to this guy, what he said we could share, this guy was brought back after less than a year, welcomed him back to the pulpit, and you didn't think he was ready to be restored to pastoral leadership. So on leave wasn't just a vacation, it was a restriction of some sort, and then to be restored back. So like, what's going on? I would want to know. And if your pastor isn't willing to say, no, this is what I've been struggling with, this is what the elders called me out on, then that's a real problem. I mean, I can tell you this, I would not stay at a church that hides or is less than honest and transparent on really important matters like this. I would expect there to be a good level of transparency. I don't need all the details, and I'm not looking for people to be humiliated, but yeah, I mean, and also, so this was a move taken by the elders, and if it should have been an issue of church discipline, then the congregation should have been involved.
Yeah.
At a public level like this. I mean, it is public. He's going to be stepping down. So I don't know how much the congregation is involved in this process at the church. It doesn't sound like it at all.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So he wants to, he doesn't want to bail on the church. He's young. He's got a lot to learn. We all do. But when you're young, boy, you start to realize, if you have your head screwed on straight, you start to realize like, well, I don't know as much as I need to know. And so you want to grow and you want to mature and you want to stay with the church you love. But
yeah,
how does he know if he should stay or leave? What should he be thinking through?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it you mentioned here. Well, one, you have a clear disagreement that the guy should be back. I mean, and I'm assuming, based off, you guys are pastors, you guys are supposed to be working together, right? So how do you work with someone that you don't think should be there?
Yeah.
That's a hard place to be in, right? And you've even mentioned here, relationships have been strained and we feel like we're at the end of our rope. But how can we be a part of a church staff like this? How would y'all perceive the situation? I'd start looking for my exit.
Yeah. I would be very honest and transparent with the staff.
Yep.
To start, I would, and I imagine that he did, but I would say like, listen, I think this is too soon. I think this is unwise. Yep. And depending on the church and the size of the church, well, it doesn't even matter the size of the church. Depending on the church and how they're thinking about things, some churches are they're so wrapped around the giftings of the preaching pastor that when you pull him out, boy, people start to bail. And there's always going to be a little fall off, I guess, when that happens. But if they start hemorrhaging a lot of people, they might be like, let's get this guy back in the pulpit, to essentially save the church, which is, again, wrong reason to do that. But I understand that there are pressures involved that people are going to feel, that leadership's going to feel, and they got to answer to the congregation on some level. But it doesn't sound like they're really communicating. And so that would be my big thing. I think I'm with you. I would start planning an exit if it's an unhealthy model and you can't help it. If it's an unhealthy model that you can help, well, that's different. And even then, if it's an unhealthy model that you can help or that can be helped, do you have the ability, the skill set, the patience to help? And it sounds like you might not be able to help because they won't let it, or that you're just not ready to do it. I don't know, but yeah. Looking for an exit. Now, how do you do that though? How do you start planning your exit? Like what should a pastor start to do? I mean, obviously, like, listen, lots of prayer, counsel for some trusted friends that aren't really a part of the situation that can, hold confidentiality and all of that. But all right, so what are some steps that they can start to do or take?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I've taken the road of, once it's kind of settled, I want to be honest, right? I want to be honest with the leadership. Hey, this is sort of where I'm at, and maybe even in this situation, maybe it's time to sit down with the leadership and say, here's where I'm at. I'm not seeing, can you help me see the path forward? What do you guys feel is the path forward? Because, there's more information here that it's like, that's the kind of place where I would share that information.
Yeah.
Right. That's the kind of stuff that I'd be sharing and saying, listen, we just got to be honest. This is where we're at. And what do you guys see as the next steps? But at the same time, I'd be looking at the boards. I'd be looking at what's out there, what's available, and seeing whether it's into another ministry, or maybe taking a break from ministry and looking at going, finding a quote unquote 9 to 5, right? Yeah. Just in the meantime to kind of heal up and do what you have to do, right? And I don't know your situation. I don't know the church's situation, like in the sense of, is there a severance package? Is there this and that? I don't know what your runway is. I don't know like any of those sort of details. But I would be talking with the elders, with the leadership at the pastoral level, and say, here's where I'm at.
Yeah. And depending on the situation, right? Because, if this is a pastor who was, abusing, I'm just using examples, abusing a woman, right? Having an affair, stealing money from the church. Like if it's something like that, and they're just like, yeah, man, you can come back in, then that's a pretty quick, like, I'm out. Like, this is corrupt.
Yeah.
But if it's something that's a bit more complicated or something that's not quite so clear, then you might be able to, like Jimmy says, talk to them and say, listen, it looks like after this conversation, I can't really stay here with a clear conscience. But what I can do is be here to serve faithfully as we transition out. And if you want to give me, so much time to do that, I'm willing to do that. Or if they're going to offer severance, great. But be clear, like, this is the end. Like there is an end date for me. I see my my end date being out here, and they might want to say, no, it's yesterday. That's how a lot of them function. And they might be afraid that you're going to start, causing division and spilling the beans and all of that. But I don't know. I got to be honest, man. Like I don't know that more of it's happening today than in the past. I tend to not believe that more is happening today. I do think we're finding out about more and that we're able to share that information. So that those are the two things. It used to be, somebody could get away with doing something nutty, but we are so connected, camera phones, videos, everybody knows everybody through the internet. I mean, goodness, look, I am a rather conspicuous looking person, easy to spot, hobbit height, bald, beard, tattoos, probably have a cigar in my mouth. Not that I'm famous or well known, but like in Christian circles, if somebody says, I saw this guy, he was short, he had this tattoo on his hand, he had a big beard, and he was totally drunk, they would have a pretty good idea who that was. I mean, it's like, I feel like that's
not because you're known for drunkenness.
Nope.
Not because Joe's known for drunkenness.
I'm just using an example.
Very clear.
I should have done with, smoking meth or something. But my point is like, so we're more easily caught these days in our transgressions because of the interconnectedness of life with everything. Yeah. And then sharing it is just all over the place. So I've been really, like, it weighs heavy on me, the number of accounts that I hear regularly, even if I'm not intentionally looking for Julie Roy's tweets. It's like constant. And I think it's fine to share that stuff. If people are in real trouble, if they're causing real damage, I think they need to be held accountable. But boy, it is pretty discouraging. And I can only imagine, being in a church. Well, I don't have to imagine. I've sat through some of this, as well, with leaders that have gone sideways. It's brutal. It's painful, and we feel for you. But we'll certainly pray. And we'll keep you in mind. And you know what? You should, after you've made your decision or you figured things out, man, feel free to write in and let us know how things are going, because, we actually do care. We care about you and everything else. Any final words, Jimmy?
No, just be praying for you. It's not an easy thing. It's a difficult situation. It's, it has impact on you, your family, the church, the members, and the leadership. I mean, it's something that you guys will be working through even after you're gone. And so, learning how to carry that, how to work through that baggage. And I mean, there's definitely baggage that I'm still sorting through from previous churches, that it just takes a long time. And I've been here for over 10 years.
Yeah.
And still sort of, kind of working through it.
Listen, man, you can heal up. You still feel the scars, right? I mean, that's life.
Yep.
And, praise God that these are momentary afflictions. They're real. They hurt, but God uses them to prepare us for glory, and that's good. And I'm not trying to make it awkward, but Jimmy, we are in the current search for a staff member at Redeemer.
RedeemerFellowship.org/openings.
Yeah.
All right,
looking
guys.
for an associate pastor, and what is the other one? It is a part-time youth minister. Go, Jimmy, go.
There you go. Yeah, well, we'd love to hear your thoughts. You can follow us online on Instagram and Twitter at Doc and Devo, or on Facebook /Doctrine Devotion. You can head to the website, doctrinedevotion.com. There you can contact us. You can sign up for the email blast at the store, joeforstore.com, and grab some gear. We got that fresh pod every Monday and Thursday. We got blog posts and video content over at the website. And we've got that all-access exclusive content. We got Banter Truth on Tuesdays, Weekday Wisdom Monday through Friday. Head on over to doctrinedevotion.com/all-access, or click the link on your podcast player that says support this podcast to get that ad-free, exclusive commercial-free content.
Yeah.
Later.